Hey guys, welcome back to more AFK Arena. I've been getting asked a lot to do a bit of a guide for the Abyssal Expedition. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to go through a text post put together by Shazam for the guild to look through just some basic instructions, heroes to select and stuff like that, and then I'm going to come back onto my test server account and go through a bit more for players that aren't as far, because the post I'm going to go through is for a lot more endgame players, so I want to take it into a bit of a realistic world with what I've had to do on my test server. So let's get into it. First off, we're going to look at a little chart that Aim's made. Really nice to just identify hero roles. He's gone through every hero in every tree and basically marked the key ones with what they have. And as you can see, he hasn't really marked too much in sorcery or fortitude because they're just not as good. So you're going to be focusing on the other trees mainly, but basically he's got pathfinders, heroes that are best able to take wilderness tiles with minimal stamina, good solo capabilities and stuff like that. Siege breakers, heroes that are strong for fights, which winning is more important. So if you've got to capture that first tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, that first settlement, they're going to be really strong for that, for getting through. Things like Pharrell with the 3 target fears, Ezio obviously because he can just delete things, and you get the gist. Tassie, the CC and that sort of stuff. Then you have Kingslayers, heroes that are best suited for raid boss damage. When to add them, he says the rule of thumb: to start, add all ascended pathfinders of your chosen starter class, and fill others with top ascended heroes in that class. So basically, most people at Celerity, you're going to fill it out with your best, the pathfinders from Celerity that have the highest ascension, and then you're going to go with other Celerity heroes. Take it with a grain of salt. We'll go through that more in a bit. And then basically he says see stamina trick at Lord. Basically there's a stamina trick where when you unlock 5 more slots, you can get your best 5 heroes to 0 stamina, remove them, and then add them to the new slots, and then they get 60 stamina. Now you don't want to remove anyone that's at like 100 stamina, because that stamina slot goes down to 0. So make sure they're at 0 before you do it if you want to do that. Then next we have priority pathfinders and siege breakers that excel in their role. All else being equal, select these before the same class counterparts filling the same roles. So that's what the lightning bolts go in there. So this is like an additive to the original role. And then core, the top Kingslayers for dealing max damage to the boss, basically is what they are. So those are going to be your main Kingslayer teams, and things like the twins, Rain, Saurus, Isold. That's what I really want to point out, is that Rain is probably going to be really good for this one. And when we talk about Isold and Saurus, now eventually they're going to be really solid. If you progress far enough, you're going to be able to actually build multiple relic trees, and that's when you want to start building the warrior relic tree, because Isold at 3 furniture as a requirement and Saurus at 30 signature item as a requirement are going to be absolute beasts for the boss. But I will do boss battles later on when we get closer to it. But that's just a good little guide to look through. Take a look at the images and go, okay, sweet, those are the type of heroes. Those are the ones from my tree. Most people can go Celerity, so I want pathfinders. Which ones are my highest ascended pathfinders? I drop them in first. So really nice little guide there. Now we come across here to Shazam's basic overall high level plan of what we want to be doing in the Abyssal Expedition. I'm going to sort of paraphrase it because looking at a wall of text isn't the funnest. So basically you're going to want to log in as close to the start of the event as you can. If you're sleeping, set an alarm, wake up. No, I'm just kidding. If you're sleeping, chill out. It's a game. Remember, guys, it's a game. Okay? But basically, log in as close as you can. Fill out all your hero slots. A little tidbit is that when you start, it actually gives you a tile. You can actually click on that tile and settle it and put someone there to increase your essence. But basically, you want to deploy. You want to start capturing as many tiles as you can up to the limit. And you want to be trying, you really want to set it to 1 times or 2 times speed. Don't use 4 times speed at the start, because you want to sort of gauge how easily the enemies are getting defeated, depending on your ascension of heroes and all that sort of stuff. And you want to be able to use maybe 4 or 3 or 2, depending on once you start getting relics, actually like less heroes to defeat those tiles to really maximize your stamina. Efficiency basically says there, fill out your max number of tiles. Avoid 5-man wipes, because 5-man wipes are bad. If you tried and it's looking bad, just quit and retry. You lose a bit of stamina, but at least you're not losing all of it. Only build relics for your main class until the game forces you to build other options. Pretty much that's the gist. If you're going celerity, which a lot of people will, only put stuff into celerity unless you have to do something else, which I'll go through on my test server account, because I'm like chapter 20, so I've just got into Abyssal Expedition and I don't have the heroes, and I couldn't capture a level 5 settlement without putting my support tree up. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but in general, if you're a bit further on, try and focus only on that one until the game forces you to get some to other ranks. As stamina essence accrue, focus traveling direction to the bosses. So basically, when you start, just focus on linking up with your teammates, getting towards the bosses. Upon reaching the boss gate, do not attack until your relics are at a certain level. So basically, to get into the next section of the thing, if you click on it, it'll say this rank is required, this title is required. What you want to get to is normally going to be that title plus a few of the relics that come with that title, if it increases the relic level from getting to that title, and then you can sort of push. I'll probably do videos throughout the expedition about individual boss strategies, and then how strong you want to be when you attack the boss. We'll sort of gauge that as we go. When you have the appropriate level of gear, that's when you start dumping your stamina. If you're struggling with bosses and you feel like you're doing no damage, have a look at other people's teams, stuff like that. Like I said, I'll try and get some videos out for that as well. Players should help, and then 8 and 9s basically help your teammates out. If someone needs a hand capturing a certain node, defeat the first wave of enemies, maybe wipe out a couple enemies in the second wave and then let them capture it, stuff like that. And ask for help if you need it. The general thing is always be progressing towards the boss, like in the general direction, and then eventually you can fan out to capture extra nodes. So basically, the direct path to bosses isn't going to give enough of the, say the requirement is tier 4 nodes. It's not going to be enough tier 4 in that direct line for everyone in the guild to get what's required, so then you can branch out and get the requirements for everyone. And the big thing at the end is, please do not snipe. Now, if you don't know what sniping is, if someone's here, the whole group's here, someone goes, I'm capturing that node, that node, that node, they're going that way, obviously there's a tier 5 settlement that they're clearly working towards. Don't jump in line and steal their tier 5 settlement. That's the gist. Don't snipe. Don't be an absolute dick. Okay. Hero selection. This is a bit for endgame players. So I feel like this is sort of what they were talking about in terms of complete endgame players, the heroes to select for this. I don't want to go too in depth into it. Purely because it's going to be different for a lot of people. I really do like, for the general majority of people, looking at that other guide that we just had up, this one, I just feel like this is a really good generalization, where you want to do your first two. We can sort of cross between them. So the first two ones are going to be the ones that, are heroes that are going to clear those common tiles pretty easily, get you pushing through and progressing along. Then you're going to start looking at other heroes from that celerity tree for most people, that are going to be filling it out. Other ones that are good at like beating boss stages, not boss stages, but like the harder stages, your Pharrells and things like that. And at this stage, obviously the yellow mark still has all celerity, but keep in mind a lot of people won't have that. So this might be where you start throwing in your Rowans, your Tassies, your Pharrells, obviously, and all those extra supports that are going to come in really handy. And then towards the end, you are going to also add in, he didn't actually have it in here, but you are going to want to get your Isolde, your Soros, all those things that are going to be endgame. But like I said, for the basics, just work on the celerity tree at the start, take some supports if you have to. That's the basic gist, and we'll get more in depth into bosses and stuff as we go through it. I just don't want to overload this too much. Once again, this is a really good one to take a screenshot of and just have a fair idea of which ones are the Pathfinders that you're going to want to start with, the Siege Breakers, the Kingslayers and stuff like that. So I really do like this one. Really, really basic. Now I'm going to jump over to my test server account and take a look at what I had to do there, because it's not in line with what you should be doing, because I suck. Okay, so here we are over on my test server, and as you can see, we're at rank Earl. The next one is Marcus. Now to get to Earl unlocks the ability to create level 4 relics, and before that, you didn't have to create anything, because at this one, you've got to make all the core relics, reach level 3 with all core relics for all classes. Now, that was not a requirement, and as you can see from my relics, I've actually got this at level 4, and I've actually maxed this out at level 3, which is more than the current requirement. But that's because in the previous one, in the previous rank, you needed to capture a tier 5 settlement, and with my limited heroes, I could not do that with only investing in the celerity tree. Now, a lot of people will be fine just going celerity tree because you'll have more of the heroes, you'll have them higher ascended, and you'll be fine. But as you can see with my heroes, I'm really quite struggling. I've left that one blank just for a demonstration. But as you can see, I'm really struggling. This is what I've got at the moment. I've got support and celerity. That is it. And I've taken up 14 slots. And as you can see here, I've got no more celerity and no more support. So that is where I got to, and I could not, using only celerity heroes, get myself a tier 5 settlement, which sucked. But I had to upgrade the support tree as well. Now, ideally, you do not want to do that. On my main account, I will not be doing that. But just so you guys know, like, I understand there is a real world out there where people aren't that far progressed, don't have every hero, and they can't do things. So, literally, and the other thing is, when I actually started the Abyssal Expedition on this account, the first hero I deployed was my Chimera. Now, I know the mage tree sucks, but due to the fact that my Chimera was ascended 1-star, she was better for that starting phase of the game before we had any relics than anyone else. So I put her in there knowing that eventually I would take her out. Now, I took her out this morning to swap her out, thinking that I had another support or ranger, but I didn't, so I'm just going to put Brutus in there because at least he gives me 8 seconds. The other option I can do is look forward. Actually, I'll probably do this. I'll put Saurus in there. Because eventually, even though mine's only Elite Plus, he's still going to be okay for the final boss. So I'll throw him in there and just start generating stamina for him coming up to the boss. But as you can see, as I unlock the other slots, I'm going to start struggling. Just because I am that early. This is my first Abyssal Expedition on the account, so I haven't developed enough heroes to really make a huge impact. So that's all I wanted to say is, like, when you start, as you can see, in my first 10, I had Rowan and Rosaline, just because I needed some of those supports. Rosaline was probably a bad option in the end. I probably should have gone with like Namora or Tassie as my first one, but you know how it is. You make do with what. Basically, all I'm trying to say from this part is, yes, the stuff we went through previously is ideal, but yes, some people aren't at that stage. So unfortunately, you just got to make do with what you've got and do the best that you can. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you have an awesome day. We'll be back with more guides for the individual bosses, boss strategies and stuff like that, and then more definitely on the final boss. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.